Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader, and tonight we will be focusing on the support of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the past 7 or 8 years to the national industry, the different sectors of the different industries that we have here in Egypt, and the process of localizing the huge industries here in the country instead of depending on importing a lot of the process of industry here in the country. And to be shedding more light on this important process and the huge sector, I'm honored to be having with me over the Daily Debate for tonight Engineer Mohamed Kamel Morsy, the strategic management expert. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Anytime. The pleasure is mine. First of all, we'll be having a report about the recent meeting of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi regarding the industry, the national industry in Egypt, in terms of the process of localizing the industries in the country. So stay tuned.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has given directives to the government to accelerate expanding local manufacturing, noting that several meetings have been held with various industrial chambers to support the ministries concerned with that issue. President Sisi directed that all ministries should be involved in taking part in giving local products and manufacturing a better chance to flourish and prosper. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli said the size of the projects conducted by Egypt in various sectors are very huge, a matter which requires accelerating the speed of the local manufacturing in different domains. He also asserted that coordination will be expedited with industrialization experts to get involved in the process and offer incentives to the sector of top priority. Meanwhile, Acting Health Minister Dr. Khalid Abdul Ghaffar asserted that he has given working on condition with the Industry Ministry to expand the local manufacturing in some areas, in particular to reduce imports such as the food, engineering and the pharmaceutical industries. For her part, Minister of Industry and Trade Naveen Gema said studies have been conducted in various sectors to analyze the imports lists and the availability of the raw materials in order to prepare a full integrated file in the regard, along with giving incentives to the sectors of top priority.
Welcome back. Still watching the Daily Debate. As I said in the beginning, that tonight we will be shedding more light on the directives of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. As we did see in the past report, the meeting of His Excellency President al-Sisi with a number of ministers regarding the localizing of or the process of localizing the national industries here in the country and to be decreasing the imports in this specific field. Engineer Mohamed Kamel Morsy, the directives of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the instructions of His Excellency, on daily basis, on weekly basis, because we see President al-Sisi every Friday he has a tour in different parts of Cairo and in different parts of Egypt as well. How do you see the support of President al-Sisi, the interest of President al-Sisi in this field, in specific, the national industries, the huge industries that we have, and the process of localizing them?
First, thank you very much for having me. And I think that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the last years have significantly given a lot of directives to the industry sector. And a lot of encouragement to the sector with a number of different incentives. It is clearly showing positive results. We have seen that the GDP participation of industries have increased to 17.1% from 16%. We have seen that in the year 2020, we're seeing that the exports of Egypt have increased with 18% to reach $34 billion versus 31. So I think we are seeing a positive trend in a very important sector affecting our economy.
What are the incentives that you've mentioned given by President Sisi for the youth in specific about the national industries?
I think that before going to the specific incentives to the youth, let us first clarify that all the infrastructure projects that have been invested in the last 7 years are main driver to the manufacturing and industry in Egypt. The investment in roads, this is for the enablements of the logistics sector. The investment of the electricity and the power is a very important input to the industry. The investment in the natural gas, all those are important factors to the manufacturing or to the industries. With this, we need to complement this with a number of international and international agreements that, and a lot of efforts that have been done to make sure that the competitiveness of our industries are there. I think that the youth has a very important focus from the strategy of the government. I think that there is a number of different incentives through the central bank, through Ministry of Industry, through a number of government agencies to support the small and medium enterprises and youth.
And this brings us to the very important cornerstone of the economy in the past 7 or 8 years. As you mentioned, Engineer Mohamed, that we had an economic reform program, one of the main points of the agenda of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi after being elected as president in the past 7 or 8 years. How do you see the importance of implementing this economic reform program, which got us to the point we have more investments, we have, as you mentioned, more agreements with several institutions, we have better economic indications or indicators given to us by the IMF, by the World Bank, we could be having more loans. How do you see the importance of having the economic reform program implemented in the first 4 or 5 years?
I think that the economic reform program is a cornerstone for the economy and for enhancing and enlarging the sector of manufacturing and empowering the business in Egypt, the business community in Egypt. I think today Egypt is a very attractive country for investment in general, manufacturing in specific. I think that there is a lot of efforts that have been done, and without the economic reform program, I'm not sure that we would have had the situation where we are today. We have seen a clear indications of our growth of the GDP during the year of the COVID.
Yes.
And I think that the Egyptian economy, one of the few economies across the world that have been performing in a positive, with a positive GDP growth. And this is a clear indications of the efforts of President Sisi and the government in the economic reform.
To be having positive growth rates and the GDP is getting better all the time every year, what does this say about the Egyptian economy, about the Egyptian investments, the potential of Egypt in this field, specifically in the near future, because we got through this during the times of the coronavirus pandemic, as you mentioned, in the past 2 or 3 years?
I think that the growth the growth rates are a clear indication that we are moving in the right direction. And this is a very positive sign for the private sector, for the investors, that the Egyptian economy is going in the right direction and attractive to different businesses. And this is a very important point, because when you compare locations for investment, you need to be competitive versus other countries. Yes. And I think that the GDP growth, the improvement of exports, the availability of electricity, the improved logistics, all this are clear indications, are clear enablements for the investment to come to Egypt.
How attractive is the Egyptian economy compared to 2013, to 2011, and even before the uprising in 2010?
I think the Egyptian economy is is the key. I would say one of the major attractiveness of the Egyptian economy are the Egyptian people. We are a very 100 million Egyptians, which is a very important market that most of the private sector cannot neglect, especially in the region. With the, if I may add, the government spending in terms of different projects, this is also a very important opportunity for the private sector to work on providing different materials to the different mega projects. Let me pick the example of Decent Life or Haya Karima. I think that Haya Karima is not only a social program, but it is a very important program that enables investment in so many different industries to improve the different villages across Egypt. It is several billions of dollars of investment in that program, which means that tens or hundreds of manufacturing companies can be providing support and can be providing business to this program only.
Focusing on Haya Karima or a Decent Life initiative, so you're telling me that investments could be pouring into the villages?
Yes.
In Egypt?
Yes.
Thousands of villages? How can that be done?
So if I pick one example, which is the fiber optic to the villages, this is an enablement to the manufacturers of optic fibers. Yes. Yes. So the enablement for optic fibers or a number of factories that can open in optical fibers to provide to this program. You could pick any of the improvements that are happening across those villages. You will find a factory or more that are providing inputs to this program.
But this brings us to a very important point. If we could be reaching those villages, as is the ambition of President Al-Sisi, as is the plan for the future, to be reaching those villages, thousands of villages across Egypt. I think it is targeting about 54% or 55% of the population of the country. But this brings us to the important point of investing in the human resources, because we can't get them, the fibers, for example, the internet, the strategies, the technologies, and not know how to use them. Is this happening in the country to be investing in the human resources?
Definitely. I think that enabling the technology to reach villages is an enablement for the ability to educate the people. And this is a very important factor, and this is a very important enablement for the people to have access to the internet. Maybe today they will not use it. Maybe their children will use it. You will have education. We have seen that Ministry of Education today are moving to the tablets that are using internet. So there is a significant enablement to the development of the human and 50% of the population, as you have correctly mentioned. So I think it's a huge program, and it's a huge developmental program for the human capital, as you are correctly mentioned.
Yes, another step towards the youth, towards the human resources, not just in Egypt, but for the world, is the World Youth Forum, because I mentioned the youth and the entrepreneurs and how they get the support of President Al-Sisi financially and psychologically as well. The World Youth Forum will be held here in Egypt in the month of January. How do you see the interest and the support given by the political leadership to the youth of Egypt, and branding Egypt to the world, to the next generations of the world, that we are a country of peace and development, investments, a great economy?
I think that the country are sending a number of different investment indications in youth, with the Youth Forum happening in January.
Yes.
I think that also, I would say, the COP27 that is happening in 2022, I think this is a very important message to the international community that we are investing in environmental and sustainable projects. So this is very clear directions. The government has launched a number of initiatives to the youth, and the the development and the encouragement of startups and SMEs in Egypt for the last number of years. We have seen the central bank providing lower interest rate loans to the SMEs. We have seen a number of initiatives that happen to encourage the startup, either through the Ministry of Industry or through the Ministry of Communication. So there is a number of different initiatives across the government to encourage the youth into a number of different in different sectors.
Yes, you've also mentioned the COP27. It will be held in Sharm el-Sheikh next year in 2022. What does this say about the country, about Egypt, that we are the representatives of Africa and the Middle East in this field, to be protecting the environment, the sustainable development? What does this say about the country and the brand of the country and how the other countries see us now?
I think that the COP27 is a very important international forum that would happen in, and it is proud to have it here in Egypt. The sustainability and the protection of the environment is a very important target of 2030 sustainability targets. And Egypt taking a lead and being a leader in Africa and the Middle East on the sustainability and protection of the environment, I think this is a great step and show very positive signs to all the international community.
Why is it important, as we did see President Sisi also participated in person in the Glasgow summit, the COP26 in Scotland? Why is it important for Egypt and for the North Africans, for the Middle Easterns, for the Africans in general, to be there in Glasgow, to be speaking about the environment, about the economy, about the sustainable development? Why is it important?
I would say, if I pick one word, will be the leadership of Egypt. So the leadership of Egypt in a very important topic is a very important thing that the president would like to translate or transmit to the international community.
Yes.
We're a leader in environment and sustainability in the region, and by attending COP26 and hosting COP27 is a clear message of leadership of Egypt.
As we did see the meeting of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi with different ministers, with the Prime Minister on a regular basis about the environment, about the economy, but how can we balance, as is the main topic for today on the daily debate, is the huge industries, localizing the industries, the sector here in Egypt, but at the same time we're speaking about the environment, about protecting the environment, about sustainability, sustainable development. How can we do both at the same time, to be developing the huge industries and protecting the environment?
I think that the program about localizing products and substituting a number of imports is a very important step for Egypt. We have seen that there is opportunities to develop a number of sectors. So if I give you an example, Egypt imports tires, finished tires, by over $500 million in 2020, which gives the opportunity to start localizing the manufacturing of tires. If I give you another example of polypropylenes, all the petrochemicals, you are importing petrochemicals with over $1.4 billion. So it is another opportunity for creating industries in that sector. If you take the khuyut, the sewing,
yes.
the sewing strings, this is, we import with $700 million. So this is another opportunity for investment and for import substitution. So localization and the efforts that the president is promoting are very important to substitute the imports. And you have very specific examples that the private sector, with the support of the government, can start working into those sectors and developing manufacturing in those specific sectors. And I think that the government are doing a number of a different number of studies to identify the potential and communicating with the private sector and directing them to those sectors, which is, I think, will really help the exports of Egypt and also minimizing the imports in the coming years.
Yes, and this gets me to the next important point, because in the past report we did listen to the directives of Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli as well, and he said that all the ministries, all the ministers should be involved in this process of localizing the industries, of developing the huge industries that we have. What can be done, and through which ministry?
So I think exactly as Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli mentioned, this is not an effort of a single ministry. This is an effort across different ministries. I have mentioned the petrochemical. So as it is important for the Ministry of Industry, it is very important to the Ministry of Oil and Gas, Energy.
Yes.
So it is important to enable that sector. We import pharmaceuticals, so this is important for Ministry of Health. We import a different number of items. We import garments. So we have seen that the Ministry of Public Entities, Wizarة قطاع الأعمال, investing in garments and in a large garment facility. So it is an effort across different ministries. Above all, Ministry of Finance, enabling taxation and enabling the right environment for the private sector is also very important. So definitely it is not an effort of a single ministry, but it is an effort of the government.
If we can throw an example, or I can ask about what happened in the past year, because we did see another directive of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the field of health. As you mentioned, that we are having the coronavirus vaccine here in Egypt, made in Egypt. Can this be replicated, in your opinion, in different pharmaceuticals, in different fields, in different industries? Can we do this? Because we had a huge leap in the terms of vaccinating people, because we have a big number of vaccines that we could be exporting to Africa as well.
I think that the example of vaccine is an excellent example. Let me add, before leaving the health sector, yes, that the government is working on developing plasma solutions in yes, the manufacturing plasma in Egypt, which is a very important figure of imports that Egypt are importing. So only in the sector of healthcare or health, there is a number of different opportunities that can be actually locally manufactured. I can pick different industries, and you will find a number of examples that can be manufactured in Egypt. Egypt imports over $1 billion of mobiles, of regular mobiles. Today we have seen the first manufacturer of mobiles and tablets in Egypt. So those are the right steps to substitute the imports in Egypt.
Yes, and we need to do it with a certain speed as well, because we know the attitude of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi that we need to do everything as soon as possible. How fast can we do that? Localizing the industries and bringing what we want here to be manufactured instead of importing them.
I think that this message goes to the public sector as well to the private sector. I think that both needs to work with the same fast speed in an accelerated type and an accelerated manner. I think that the government has a clear mandate to facilitate the access to land, the access to permits, the access to opportunities, and also the private sector needs to work in a fast manner to access those opportunities, to develop those projects, to invest in those projects, to train the people, to get the R&D required. It is a very important effort from both sides, and definitely Egypt can do it in a very accelerated manner.
Yes, one of the statements made by Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli as well regarding this issue is that we need to be expanding the local industries in different parts of the Republic, of different parts of Egypt. It's not just about Cairo, Alexandria, the new administrative capital, the big cities. How do you see this importance of such a statement from the Prime Minister?
I think this is a translation of the strategy of the government of investing over 10 billion pounds in developing over 17 industrial parks across 15 governorates across Egypt. So it's a clear direction and it's a clear indication to the private sector that manufacturing or industrial parks are ready for you to come and invest. Having said that, there is definitely a number of different factors and challenges and efforts that the government still needs to do to attract the investors, to attract the private sector and encourage new business people from the youth and from the local and from as well international investors to come and open up in Egypt.
Yes, and in order to be having this process of localizing the industries and developing this huge sector, we need raw materials. Do we have them in different fields?
I think that Egypt is rich in terms of its resources. I believe that we have access to different natural resources as well as human resources. We have natural gas, we have oil, we have minerals ranging from white sand, black sand, phosphate. So we have resources. We have access to ports. We are in a very in geographical near to Europe, near to the Middle East, near to Africa. We have the right resources to attract business in Egypt.
So what are the main challenges? What is next to be done?
I think that the challenges are similar to a number of developing countries. If I would pick, the first one is the ability to import or to develop the R&D. So to accelerate in exports and to build a strong industrial economy, you don't want to only invest in regular manufacturing products. You want to really invest in high-value products. High-value products needs research and development. So you need to either attract the technology providers to provide you, for example, if you talk about petrochemicals, you want to really get the right technology partners to provide you with the right factory for petrochemical factory. If you pick the example of tires, today tires has a number of different research and technology in it. So you need to attract research and you need to attract the right technology. If I pick the example of technology...
Do we need to be attracting research or initiating research from within the country?
I would say attracting research. So developing research is also important and we need to do this. But today, if we want to move in an accelerated manner, we need to have deals and partnerships with the technology providers to bring the right technology to Egypt to be able to provide high-value products. In the same time, in parallel, we need to really empower the research and development sector to provide the support. I would say that this is one of the challenges. There is a number of different challenges, and I'm sure that it has been discussed in a number of different daily debates.
Yes.
Permits, taxation, in business bureaucracy. There is a number of different challenges that I'm sure that the government are working on enhancing those different challenges.
In those challenges, to be specific, the bureaucracy, the taxation, because we always look to other similar neighboring countries that are successfully attracting investments, and we always say that we need to get to that level. We have more potential, we have bigger opportunities, but we don't have the same investment laws, to be specific. Can we be implementing those investment laws here in Egypt to be attracting more investments easier in the future?
Before answering this question, let me say that the exports have increased by 18%. This means that
in which year?
This year.
In this year.
This year, exports have reached $34 billion versus $31 billion in the year before. So this is a clear indication that there are investors in Egypt. There is private sector that is working. There is a number of different industries that are correctly working under the current investment law. Having said that, doesn't mean that we improvement and development.
We always need development.
Development is a process that will never
Limitless,
end.
Yes.
So you always need to be competitive. You always need to rethink the current incentives, the current investment laws, the current investor incentives that you're giving. And I would say that if I would pick another battle, it would be the promotion. So we need to better promote our investment environment in Egypt. I think that we have abroad and locally as well. I'm not sure that everyone in Egypt or in the investment community internationally knows that Egypt imports $500 million of tires. It's a clear opportunity. Let the private sector knows it. Give the potential land, give the permits to and directly talk with the technology providers in this and try to get those investment in Egypt. So I would say that the investment promotion is a very important aspect that I think that we need to do more of it.
The promotion of investments or the marketing of investments, but my main question, speaking of tires, for example, do we get the same brands that are out of Egypt and we tell them you could be coming here, build your factories, we have a big market, 100 million Egyptians, and you could be exporting to Africa, to the Middle East, to North Africa? Are we getting the same brands that are we importing from outside right now just to be typing made in Egypt, or we build our own brand from scratch to be competing with those brands?
I think you need to do both. You cannot do a new brand by yourself.
A lot of money.
You cannot do a new brand by yourself. You need to be attracting the technology and the international manufacturers to come here in Egypt and for a number of years, and then you start building your own brand and competing in the local market and internationally. In petrochemical, for example, it's a different story because it's almost a commodity. So getting the right technology and the right investment, which is very important investments, and leveraging the availability of natural gas and locations that you have here in Egypt, and investing and building those industries.
Yeah, speaking of industry, we have a report on the daily debate for tonight as well. The second report of the evening is about the directives of the Minister of the Business Sector, Engineer Hisham Tawfiq, and the local industries, the directives about the local industries and the opportunities that we have here in Egypt to be reaching our full potential in this sector. So stay tuned and let's see it.
Long strides in localizing the auto industry in a bid to increase the local components to 60%. Working towards that end, Minister of Public Business Sector Hisham Tawfiq witnessed earlier this year the signing of 2 cooperation protocols between 2 giant auto companies to localize and develop the automotive industry in Egypt. Both companies are subsidiaries of the Egyptian company for metal construction, Metalco, which is one of the public business sector ministries' companies. The first protocol is to develop an electric bus model in order to stipulate that the other company should produce all components of the bus, provided that foreign company Bright Skies contribute to the development of the battery and the electric propulsion system. It is also expected that the protocol will pave the way for the establishment of the first Egyptian Research and Development Center for the electric car industry, after the completion of the feasibility study, which will take 6 months to complete. The signing of these two agreements is an ambitious step to deepen and localize the Egyptian technological component in the future automotive industry. Meanwhile, the Minister of Public Business Sector confirmed that the cooperation with the Bright Skies company reflects the state's keenness to maximize the partnerships with the private sector, especially with regard to modern technology in light of the global trend and development in the electric car industry, with the aim of keeping pace with the progress in this industry and increasing the percentage of the local component and localizing technology in Egypt. These protocols are first step towards the production of the Egyptian clean energy vehicles as the first stage in the production of buses running on natural gas and the next stage in buses powered by electricity. The automobile industry is witnessing a technological revolution represented by self-driving cars, electric cars and cars connected to the internet. And this is reflected in the increase in the technological components represented in the electronics and the software circles. And that is a very important step in which the strong competitive advantage for the Egyptian cadres will take place.
The self-driving cars. I've been hearing this word or phrase for the past 20 years. When we can see that here in Egypt? I've seen it in films.
It's a very difficult question.
Yes.
When are we going to see the self-driving cars in the world?
Yes.
I think that technology today is approaching. We have seen a number of different new electric cars that have the ability to self-drive, self-drive recently. So I think that in the coming years we will see it.
We know that
when exactly it's a difficult.
Here, we know that
Self-parks is available in a number of cars.
The auto industry, as we did see in the past report, and the interest of the political leadership represented in President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Minister Hisham Tawfiq in this field, the auto industry, and to be localizing this field and to be building new factories here in the country, specifically for the electric cars. What is the importance of this step?
Auto industry is a very important industry in general. We have seen in a number of different factories manufacturing here in Egypt, coming in and coming out, and we have seen buses being manufactured in Egypt and exported to the UK. So this is a very important industry. The red buses. And it is a very important industry for Egypt to focus on and attract investors in this area. I think electric cars, electrifications of cars across the world is happening. In 2030, I think that Europe has a number of regulations that very significant percentage of electric cars would be available. So I think starting in manufacturing electric cars and buses in Egypt is a very important step. Today we have seen a number of manufacturers of smaller vehicles, motorcycles and small vehicles in electric motorcycles. Already being manufactured in Egypt. I am not sure that there is anything that would prevent Egypt for developing its own electric cars. I think that we have the ability to invest and attract the right technology and the right partner and build the right manufacturing and industrial park to really open the electric vehicles manufacturing in Egypt. The advantage of the auto industry that it has a significant number of feeding industries that provide this huge industry. So having or manufacturing a car means that there is 40 or 50 other factories that are providing different components in the industry, starting from the shares to the windows to a number of different things that can be provided in Egypt. I think that the automotive industry, before electrifications, we have reached over 45 or 50% of local manufacturing, and I think that in electric cars we should be focusing on reaching a much more significant or a much more important percentage of local manufacturing.
We can see that the electric cars and the research and development for having more electric cars and the manufacturing of electric cars here in Egypt is one of the priorities of the political leadership, to be propagating the idea, to be marketing the idea, and in terms of the cost, in terms of the environment-friendly status for them. Why do you think it is important to be having a new type of cars represented in the electric cars? Is it just about the environment, or does it have other benefits?
I think the importance is building our own brand and building the strong automotive electric vehicles in Egypt. This is a clear opportunity for decreasing the imports and a clear opportunity for the export and exporting our brand either to the Middle East or to Africa or potentially to Europe or the whole world. So it is definitely a very important step that Egypt needs to take.
Yes, and the report also mentioned the R&D, the research and development for the electric car industry. So does this mean that we need to be attracting other experts from abroad to be telling us more about the process of developing this field, or do we have the people here in Egypt to be doing it?
The research in the electric cars is available in a number of different domains, either in the batteries or in the software that manage the cars. One of the Egyptian companies today in the Smart Village is one of the major software developer of car softwares across the world today happening in Egypt. So I think that we have the ability to develop the research behind this. Egypt has one of the best qualities of silicon that can enter to the manufacturing of the different silicon metal that enters to the car components. So we have the resources, we have the ability, and we really can localize a number of different components in the electric manufacturing.
Yes, one of the statements made by Minister Hisham Tawfiq in this report is that it is evident that the political leadership has the intention to be building partnerships with the private sector. How can you see that in the past 7 or 8 years?
I think it's a clear indications of encouragement to the private sector. I have seen a number of different companies in Egypt doubling or tripling, and even more in terms of their revenues per year, just by working in partnerships with the government. Public-private partnership is a very important enabler to the investment and a very important vehicle of investment in Egypt. We have seen the last signature of the project in Mogamma Tahrir, which is a clear indications of the partnership between the public sector and the private sector. It's a clear attraction for investment, and it is a clear signal from the government that we are encouraging the role of the private sector in the economy.
Yes, Engineer Mohamed Kamel, Morsy, Strategic Management Expert, thank you very much for being with us today on the Daily Debate.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
And this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.